Hi guys, how is it going? So there have been some news recently about one new AI that is not causal and it's used for code writing, pipeline design and implementation. And even my company have been discussing about utilizing that AI to maximize our productivity and as well as the efficiency. So I mean that discussion is still going on, of course, because we mostly use Copilot. That one comes with Microsoft, so that's what we used mostly now. This video is just about showing you first-hand experience with Kiro. All the first thing I did was type Kiro on browser, and I got this. So after I got this page, what I did was basically download the IDE version of Kiro. There's a CLI version as well. So after I downloaded the IDE version, so if you download the IDE version, you can download it on your desktop and you can open it, just like you can open the Visual Studio Code. I think it uses Visual Studio Code. So when I open it, this is what it looks like basically. So I've sort of done some experimentation with it, right? So just a bit of context before I go further. So about 4 years ago, I got a task from a company asking me to basically create an ETL pipeline. They provided the requirements as well as some test data. So I created the pipeline, you wrote the code, and I used Kafka, used Spark, and I used Hadoop distributed file system, HDFS. And today I just said, okay, I've got the requirement. I still have the requirement with me as well as the test data. It's in my GitHub. So I did clone those requirements and the test data from GitHub. And what I did basically was um, open the requirements as well as the test data in Kiro, basically the Kiro IDE. So you can see this is the requirement. So basically what they are saying is there is ingest data that arrive in the raw directory, and there are customer product transaction and eraser request data. So the customer data arrive every hour on a daily basis, like multiple times within a day. So that is the same as transaction data. But the product data arrive early in the morning, that is once a day. And the eraser requires basically the summary of the daily batch. So what I need to do is basically do some transformation, some cleansing, then logging as well as writing the data to a new location on the file system. So um, so this is basically the structure of the data. So what I did when I installed Pivot was basically um, there is an option to, so if you go to Q and try to it's in a second. So if you say if you go to, let's say, new window, right? Um, you can open a project. So if you open a project, say for example, I want to open a project here. Let's say Twitter login, for example. So um, if you open chat here and trying to see, okay, so you will get this one. This option, the spec one, is basically for you to provide the specification on what you want Kilo to do for you. And the VAD is basically chat first, then build, explore ideas, and basically iterate as we discover needs. So I do have my requirements and I do have my test data. So I just went to the spec just for my first try. So when I provided the spec, I provided the README requirements. So I just got to the chat and I inputted some requirement. Okay, based on this, the content of this README and .md requirements and the test data, I want you to create me an ETL pipeline design. So it went ahead and created the it first created this folder .kiro. Then inside that folder, it's created the requirements.md file. And this requirement.md file, you can see the what it has created. If I go from the top, it's created basically the introduction part, then the glossary. You see, it's basically specify what it needs to create based on the requirements, right? And it's basically specify the pipeline and you describe what it's about, the ingestor, the cleanser, and so on. It's mentioned partition here, record, and so on. So then here, this is information about the first requirement. The first requirement is to ingest a file, ingest from the file system. So then it has a user story, like kind of a backstory, basically what it needs to do about that. And then this is the acceptance criteria. It basically kind of the information of what needs to happen, right? So and the condition so it's basically say when this is this, what should happen? When that is that, what should happen? So it's basically kind of laying out the uh, requirements and what it needs to do every step of the way, like basically step by step, you know. And and this is basically user story. What as a data engineer, I want the pipeline to enforce customer data constraints so that only valid customer record flow into downstream processing. Then it's then creates the acceptance criteria based on that. So then after it's created, it's done with the requirements. It then move on to you basically create the design.md. So this is the requirement stage. Then if we click continue, it go to the design.md. So in the design.md, it's provide the overview and it's basically give you the information about the key design goal, what is actually uh, the main objective, what we're trying to achieve. So here the main thing is correctness, observability, atomicity. So for this one, it's the output files are written atomically via temp file then rename to avoid partial write being visible to custom. This is a very important detail. It's very important in ETL pipeline design. In my day-to-day job, when I create pipeline, if you are ingesting data to a storage location where the customer have a pipeline to extract the data from there, you want to make sure that if the upstream pipeline is ingesting the data, it has to finish writing the data to the destination before the downstream pipeline can extract the data or read the data. This is to avoid reading an unfinished file, basically a file that hasn't been completely written yet. So so that is where the atomicity comes in. Then it goes on to mention other design goals. So and then it's created the architecture. You can see, I think this is all right, right? So, and this is just within some minutes and it's finished this, you know. And I think this is a powerful tool, you know. And After it created the design, it then moved on to the task. So when it got to the task, so the design basically is the design.md. When it got to the task, it created the task.md file. And the task.md file basically is about the implementation. I did specify what it needs to do. Um, you know, I did tell it to write the implement the design using Python, right? And also when it was creating um the basically implementing the design, uh, there were stages where it asked for some input, like um, when it was creating the um, implementing the task, it did create um, this folder, the SRC, the source folder. It created the ETL pipeline folder and basically created um, the Python file, each of the Python files. And it created this ETL pipeline edge info and the entry points, package information, as you can see here. And it's created the sources as well. So it's created this one as well. So all of these ones, I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to create it myself. All I need to do is just basically tell it what it needs to do. And if there was kind of, if we basically, I will be looking at what it's doing. And at some point, it will ask me about a specific package it's trying to install. It did create the requirements.txt, and when it was about to install hypothesis, it did ask me, and it it did ask me if that should be installed, and um I gave it a go ahead. Then it's installed that as well as the PyTest. So all of these are basically the steps in each of the implementation stages. So at some point, it did tell me that my credit is running low, right? And I think it's because I was using the free version. Um, if you pay for it, you have more credits, I believe, because this is like it's using a lot of compute power to build all of these tasks, So I think it's a powerful tool, to be honest. Something that you would spend hours, to get done um, within within maybe 1 hour, even less than 1 hour. If there was no problem, it will finish it for you. So, but you do have to verify what it's outputs, the job is done. Like, for example, all these files created, you do need to verify the output. If you're working with big data set, right, you know what you're expecting from data, you know the sort of transformation that it should do. I think you do need to verify all the outputs of the um, transformation it's done. So, yeah, in summary, I think it's very productive for the developers, you know, it's very, very productive. So, yeah, I think that is my first-hand experience with Kiro. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe button, and leave a comment. Have a lovely day and goodbye.